Just turn the engine off. Hi. Long time no talk. Okay, so, I just feel like I have a lot to discuss here. And just in general, I did buy myself a Tim Hortons, so I'm gonna be... Just so I'm not sitting talking, at least I have something else to be doing, like having a drink. This is so good. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in one of the previous videos. It's the iced cappuccino. Really, really good. Hoping that this angle isn't too shite. So I have quite a lot to talk about. I said in my last video, or a couple of videos ago, that I wanted to be a bit more consistent, and that was sort of the plan. And now it's been like 3 weeks since I posted, because I have not been doing very well mentally, and a lot of stuff has happened, a lot of realizations, and I just wanted to share. I mentioned on my Instagram story 2 days ago, just briefly touching on a couple of the things that have been going on. And I don't know how, but that story is definitely the most viewed story I've ever had. I had like 1,000 views on it, and I got so many really lovely messages that were really appreciated on the day that I posted it. I wanted to share just a couple of the things that are going on, not as like a therapy session, because that's not what this is about. More so a sort of, I guess, to anyone else who's dealing with a lot at the moment, or has been dealing with a lot in general for a while. Even if this is reassuring or helpful to one or two people who watch, then that's really all that matters to me. I'm gonna do my best not to get emotional in this video, because I just don't want to do that. But apologies in advance if I am not my usual self. And a lot of people responded to that story and said really kind things. You know, I'm always here to talk, and that's so appreciated. But one of the reasons that I feel like it's so difficult for a lot of people to talk to someone is, like, where do you start? Like, at what point do you start? Because I feel like if you're someone like me who never opens up and just suppresses your own feelings and your own struggles because you don't want to burden anyone, the minute you want to open up to someone, you really don't know where to start. Like, I could talk about one or two things that's, you know, on my mind at the moment that's making me feel the way I do, but that's only like the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's so much to unpack. Like, I genuinely feel like the worst thing that you can do, and anyone who's going through something or is starting to go through something, it's so take it from me, please just tell someone, talk to someone, anyone. I don't know about anyone else, but I am here to listen to anyone, even if it is a stranger. But the worst thing that you could do is suppress your emotions and not talk about them, because it all builds up, which is definitely what's been the case with me. Very recently, have discovered, or not discovered, but I've finally being able to accept that I have an issue with alcohol. I think whenever people hear the term alcohol problem, drinking problem, they think of an alcoholic. They think of someone who drinks all the time, drinks every day, relies on alcohol, needs to drink it all the time, is dependent on it. That is one type of drinking problem. For quite a while, I've noticed that I'm not really able to control myself when it comes to alcohol, and I think I have a good idea about why that is the case. Very anxious, closed off person, so when I drink, especially in social settings. It's like a relaxant. It allows me to come out my shell, and I think that can be a really good thing for a lot of people. But for me, and I know this is not just me, I just don't feel like many people talk about it. For me, I didn't have any control. Never knew when to stop. I'd have one drink, it would make me feel less anxious, more myself. I'd keep going, but because you're getting used to that feeling of being more you, coming out your shell, it should be easy to know when to stop, but I can only speak for me. I found it really difficult. I tend to always overdo it with alcohol. Out of every time that I've drank in my life, I would say 80 to 90% of the time have ended up really overdoing it and become drunk to the point where I'm not myself anymore. And finding that balance of being drunk but just being happy and having fun versus being drunk and being a completely different person. And I do not like the person that I am when I get drunk. I really don't like that person. And I think for a long time, I've known that. I had recognized that problem a while ago, and I thought I would be able to have it under control, and I really do not. Over the last couple of weeks, I have been, over the last, for a long time actually, I've been going through a lot. Don't talk about it. Like I said, I just don't know where to start, but I noticed quite a lot over the last few weeks, couple of months, that I had been drinking a lot more often than I would normally. Talking like twice a week, but it wasn't like having a glass of wine and watching a movie after a stressful day at work. It's a Tuesday night, I feel like shit, I'm going to go to Aldi and I'm going to buy 2 bottles of white wine and I'm going to drink both of them in the span of an hour and a half, and I'm going to feel like shit the next day. Turning to alcohol as a coping mechanism for your personal struggles is a really slippery slope, because a lot of people don't recognize the issue. They don't realize that it's a problem. Like I said, it can be normal. It can be normal to have a glass of red wine after a stressful day. That's normal. But when you get drunk because you don't want to be sober and deal with what you're dealing with, that is not healthy. It's not a good idea. In the last week, have finally been able to admit to myself and to the people around me that I have a problem, and I am no longer going to be drinking alcohol at all. It's not even something that I'm going to choose to work on or try and deal with better. For me, what I feel is best for me is not to drink alcohol anymore. And I'm going to sort of touch on the reasons why, I've had this sort of realization. I was talking to this guy. I really liked him. And I've been on quite a few dates this year with different guys. I haven't felt the same way as I did with this guy in particular. I'm going to call him Cameron. That's not his name, but we'll just for the sake of me explaining the story. So I was talking to Cameron, and it was going really well. And funnily enough, I actually only worked up the courage to ask him. I was asking to take him out when I was drunk. We ended up meeting up it was a week ago. And all of what I'm saying right now is coming from a place of pure, fresh emotion. All of this stuff is very raw at the moment, and I'm just throwing that out there. So we went out. I went to pick him up. He lives 20 minutes from me. And we went out and had a really nice time. We went to Starbucks, got some food. After that, I was expecting to sort of like take him home and whatever, but he had invited me back to his house. I had a really nice time just spending time with him. And at this stage, the last few weeks of my life have been really quite lonely for a number of different reasons, which I don't even want to get into right now. There's stuff going on I just feel like that's a whole other story. I've been feeling really lonely, haven't had a lot of company, and it was nice to be able to spend time with him. Long story short, really, really liked him. I think definitely more than he liked me. Not because he didn't like me, just because I really liked him. So I felt this immediate connection to him. I don't know if it's because of the fact that I've been feeling alone, so it was nice to have that company. But I just liked him straight away. It was one of those things that happens, I guess. But I had a nice time. He asked to cuddle and stuff like that. And don't know about anyone else. If I'm intimate with someone in that way, especially the first time we meet, it's like I will become attached, and that is my own problem. That's not his fault. I went home, told him straight off the bat. I told him straight away, listen, I had a really nice time today. I really like you. If you can just let me know the now, would you be up for seeing me again? Because I don't want to get too attached, or my anxiety tends to ruin situations for myself. I always overthink everything. I overanalyze everything. My head will convince myself that someone is not interested in me, even if they are. My head likes to fuck with me. Yeah, he said he would like to see me again. So I was sort of trying to make that happen. The next day, and again, probably too soon, but looking back at it now, I think the reason I was so eager to see him again was because of the fact that I was feeling really lonely. I was asking him, and he was sort of not really responding to what I was asking him, but it wasn't anything deep. It was literally just my head overthinking it. He wasn't giving me a straight answer, and I thought, that's it, he does not want to see me again. And at that point, I decided I'm going to get drunk. I went and bought a bottle of vodka, drank almost the whole bottle, and then a bottle of white wine. Ended up, this was on the Saturday night, so this was 2 days after we had met up. And basically messaging him, and half of the conversation that I had with him, I don't even remember. That's how drunk I was. I started basically accusing him of not wanting to see me. He said that he had changed his mind, which is totally fine. People are allowed to change their mind. It's not a personal attack. He said that he wasn't looking for a relationship, which is fine. I mean, it hurt my feelings, but we only met once. He didn't owe me anything. These are all my problems, because I liked him and I felt upset by that, but I took it out on him. My anxiety allowed me to bombard him, and I hate blaming my anxiety, but it was my overanalyzing and overthinking and my anxiousness that caused me to behave that way, and also the fact that I was blackout drunk. I royally fucked it, messed up really badly with the messages. I didn't say anything that was rude or call him any names. It wasn't like that. It was just I was being too much. I called him 10 times. And when I woke up the next morning, I literally felt so ashamed of myself, and I think at this day, on the Sunday when I woke up, it was the worst day of my life, because not only had I accepted that I need to no longer drink alcohol, I also pushed something away that could have been really good for me, and I don't think it would have worked anyway. He said he wasn't really looking for a relationship. He said that he had thought about it and he changed his mind. So it probably wouldn't have worked anyway, but it also might have worked had I not done that and fucked it for myself. Not only did I drink alcohol that night to try and fix my problems, I created another problem in my life, and that was really difficult it was like a difficult pill to swallow. The next morning I felt like it was the right thing for me to do to apologise to him face to face. But also the next day I just was at such a low point that I really needed to talk to someone. My mum was on holiday, but just wanted to talk to someone who maybe didn't even know me that well, and he didn't know me that well at all. We hadn't spoken for too long. I went over to his house mainly to apologise for my behaviour, but also because I genuinely was just at rock bottom and I had nobody to talk to. Seriously, nobody. And it just made sense for me to talk to him because he had seen the way I was acting the night before, and he could obviously sense something was seriously not right with me. Went to his house and he was at home, but he didn't answer the door. He didn't want to talk to me. When I was at his door, his auntie showed up. I think she was just coming over to visit. She asked, "Is everything all right?" Or something like that. And as soon as she asked me that, I started sobbing. I am someone who does not cry, and I've actually questioned it for a while. I'm like, why do I not cry? Like, things that would normally make people cry, I genuinely feel like I'm so desensitized to feeling like shit that I could have a serious, awful event happen to me. Genuinely convinced myself for a long time that I could, watch everyone I cared about be run over by a truck and I wouldn't even cry. As bad as that sounds, it doesn't come from, a bad place. I just genuinely didn't feel like I could cry anymore. I just felt like I was just, numb. So the minute she asked me it, is everything all right, or can I help you or something, I was asking her, is Cameron home? I just need someone to talk to. And as I started saying that, I just burst into tears, and I hadn't cried in months and months and months, and it all just came out. She invited me into her car. Now, she didn't even know who I was, obviously. Me and this guy had only met once. And I sat and she spoke to me for an hour and a half, maybe longer. And I just sat and cried and opened up to her, a complete stranger. And honestly, first of all, the world needs more people like that, first and foremost. She did not need to do that. And the fact that I would do that if I seen someone who was not in a good way to that degree. I would 100% listen to them, talk them down. But she was just encouraging me to get help, talk to someone. She just was giving me lots of advice, giving me resources on what to do. And I was at such a low point that morning that I don't know what could have happened to me that morning if she had not showed up when she did. Her showing up at that moment, I'm not big on signs and stuff like that, but her showing up in that moment, I genuinely think was such a pivotal moment in my life, because if I hadn't had that conversation with her and let out my emotions and listened to what she had to say, I would not, I don't know what I would be doing right now. So I think over the last couple of days, I've just accepted that situation with that boy is not going to work. And I've just accepted that. I have apologised to him profusely. He hasn't responded to my apologies, and I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with is people not liking me, or I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't like me. I'm just, there could be a number of reasons that he hasn't responded to me. He doesn't need to. He doesn't owe me that. He doesn't owe me forgiveness. Or maybe he has forgiven me but doesn't need to disclose that to me. He's probably just protecting his peace. And that's totally fine. I think it's difficult when, you liked someone and you just totally embarrass yourself, but hopefully he'll be able to see that he just came into my life at a really dark period, and the whole situation has likely been a blessing in disguise, because after that situation, being able to admit to myself and see where things need to change in my life, and one of the main things is cutting out alcohol from my life. When you're in a dark state mentally, drinking is not a good idea, and I think it's become so normalized to drink to the point that you're blacking out. I've always just convinced myself, oh, it's fine, I'm just young, I got really drunk. No, it's a problem. It's like a major issue, and alcohol does not serve any purpose in my life anymore at all. Finding healthier ways to deal with issues is what I need to be doing, and just talking to people is helpful. It's also at times like this where you really do realise who is there for you. I've had more support from acquaintances and strangers, basically, over the last week than people who I would expect support from. That's really eye-opening. Everyone is dealing with something in their life, and I think being at my age, being in your early 20s, I think going from a teenager till mid-20s, those years are really difficult. Pretty much, it's very rare for things to be the same in your life from when you were 18 to when you're 25. I think things change so much in those years. You realise so much. You make stupid mistakes. You lose people. People come and go in your life. Granted, sometimes that can be your own fault. Definitely been situations in the last couple of years where I've been the reason that people have exited my life and vice versa. Being able to accept that making mistakes and fucking up doesn't make you a horrible person is something that I struggle with. I think just because I've spent so long trying to have everyone like me, just unrealistic. I think accepting the fact that you're probably going to be the villain in someone else's story, and that's out of your control. You can't do anything about that. The only thing that actually matters is how you feel about yourself and who you are as a person. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's just the way it is. If you're struggling, the best thing that you can do is to speak to someone. Don't turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like alcohol or other substances. Just find things that work for you. Healthy alternatives, speaking to people, anything that's not going to cause you or anyone else any harm. Suppressing how you feel is not a good idea. I literally was at my doctor's this morning, and they're putting me on a priority list for counselling. And again, that's something that I've always avoided doing because, like I said, I just don't know where I would start. Where do you start unpacking years and years and years of holding things in and keeping things to yourself? Where do you start? I have no idea. You won't know unless you try. So I'm at the stage now where it's like I'm willing to give anything a go, because I am well and truly, I don't want to live like how I've been living this past several months. Yeah, I'm just done with it, and cutting off alcohol from my life completely is definitely the biggest thing that I could do. Being able to admit to yourself that you have a problem is difficult, but it also shows a lot of strength, because a lot of people will just dismiss it and be like, oh no, that's not a problem, like, and they like sort of minimize it. But it really is. If you're drinking to cope with problems, and you know you get blackout drunk every time you drink, that is a problem. Not gonna sit here and tell anyone to stop drinking, because if you have a healthy relationship with alcohol, absolutely, I'm happy for you. But if any of what I've said has resonated with anyone in that regard, it's just something to think on. It's taken me a really long time to actually admit that to myself, and I'm really happy with the decision that I've made to no longer drink alcohol. Yes, I'm young. I'm 23. A lot of being young is, you know, going out and like night out culture and club life, but that has never served me in any way. I've never enjoyed going clubbing or going nights out, really. It's not ever been something that I've been interested in, and I can still do those things sober. Not clubbing, I don't even like clubbing as it is, but I can still go and be with friends and have a soft drink and still socialise, and I think that would be really good for my mental health, like good for my anxiety, to push myself out of my comfort zone instead of relying on alcohol to make me sociable. That's definitely a good thing to try. I'm also going to Greece in 3 weeks, which I'm going to be filming, like I said. This whole time I was thinking like, oh, I can't wait to be sat by the pool, like taking myself to Greece and having a wine by the pool. Absolutely not. I'm not touching a drop of alcohol in Greece or at all ever. Not saying I'll never drink again. I might have a Kopparberg on my wedding day, but at this time in my life, the most important thing is fixing my headspace, and alcohol serves no purpose in my life for the far foreseeable future, and I need to work on my mental health. If anyone who's watching feels the same way I do about talking, opening up, maybe you feel also quite isolated and alone, whether it be mentally or physically or both, you can absolutely message me. I am here to listen to anybody, because sometimes when you're at your lowest point, all you want is just to talk to someone. It doesn't even need to be about what you're going through. Sometimes you just want to have a conversation with someone in general, and I am here if anyone wants to do that. You can absolutely message me on Instagram. Totally here for that, because the last thing I would want, after how dark I felt over the last 4 or 5 days, the last thing that I would want is anyone to be feeling like that, but also feeling like they have nobody to talk to, because I've felt like that firsthand and really experienced true, dark, horrible thoughts. I don't want anyone else to feel that way. Nobody should feel that way. It's such a horrible thing to deal with. So I'm here if anyone needs to talk. And yeah, I have a lot of things that I need to work through. My anxiety being one of them. Dissociation, depersonalization, that's a whole other mental health issue that I have, which is one of the ones that I struggle with the most. Eating disorders. Another thing that I need to get a bit more control over. Lots of things. And as of recently, being depressed. Well, these are things that are going to need to be at the top of my priority list, instead of trying to ignore them and dealing with them in unhealthy ways that ends up creating more problems. And if you're in a similar boat, absolutely talk to me, please. Oh. I'm going to be, of course, going to Greece in a few weeks and vlogging the whole thing, so that'll be interesting. I must say I'm sort of less excited about it than I was because of how I'm feeling right now. Like, I think just everything that I've been sort of realising and dealing with over the last few days, it's just made me sort of be quite... Because right now, like, I kind of need to be around people and have company. Maybe I'll meet people when I'm there, but I think I'm sort of 50-50 about it. Like, being alone in a different country right now doesn't sound great, but who knows where my headspace will be at in a few weeks when I go, and maybe it'll be the best thing for me to like fully unwind and just use it as a week of just self-care by the pool, just taking care of myself and not thinking about anything that's going on. I don't know, it kind of feels like it would be needed right now. I'm just looking forward to it. I think that it's a scary thing to do, but I think I'll just feel really proud of myself if I'm able to do that. Because it's something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. And like I said, I really want to be able to inspire anyone watching, or persuade, or what's the right word? Sort of give anyone who's watching like that boost of like confidence to actually go ahead and do something like that if it's something that you've been contemplating for a while. Hopefully show people that it's not actually that scary. I don't know, maybe it'll be fucking terrifying. I mean, I won't know unless I try. That's the headspace that I'm in right now. I might as well give everything a go, because what's the worst that could happen? I mean, my plane falls into the sea, that might be, but I'm not going to think like that. Another thing that's sort of been going on is, like I mentioned a bit earlier, is just sort of realising who's actually there for you and who's just maybe not. If you're in any situations in your life where you feel like you're not getting what you deserve from a friendship, a relationship, even if it's your family, you don't need to deal with it. Cut that off, because it's just been a really eye-opening last few weeks. So I'm just, if anyone's in a similar situation, maybe you just feel a little bit off about certain people or certain things, you're allowed to cut those things off. And if it doesn't serve you in any way, or you feel like you're not being treated how you feel like you should be treated or how you deserve to be treated, then you can just dip, even though it might be hard. At the end of the day, you are worth a lot. And if you feel like you're getting any less than what you're worth, then that's not for you. The right people will come along and everything will make sense one day. And I think just thinking about that everything will make sense one day is helpful in the present, because sometimes you can feel like everything is just falling apart. But everything falls into place eventually. It's just one of those things where you need to take each day as it comes, one day at a time. If you feel like you need to force anything, it's not worth it. I'm here if you need me. Now, over the last few days, I've been watching this channel on YouTube. What are they called? Reacting to My Roots. It's this guy and his wife, and they watch like they're like an American couple, but they watch UK related content because they both have UK ancestry. Watching them trying British snacks earlier, and they were eating mini cheddars, and as soon as they were eating it, I was like, oh my god, I haven't had mini cheddars in so long. So actually the reason that I came out was not to even film this, it was actually to buy mini cheddars, but I just thought it was a good idea to talk about this. So I'm actually going to go and buy mini cheddars now. But yeah. Oh, I hope that they have it in Home Bargains, because that's the only place that's open, I think, that would sell them. Maybe Iceland is open. I might go into Iceland, but Home Bargains might be cheaper. Just hope that anyone who's struggling right now, you're not alone. Almost everyone, if not everyone, has something going on. I just think that this has been the darkest period of my life ever. Yeah, just it's nice to be able to hear that other people are feeling a similar way, because sometimes when you feel really alone and feel like no one else understands, like there's always going to be someone who does, or maybe someone who doesn't relate exactly to your situation, but they can relate in similar ways. It's really helpful. I'm gonna go home now and have mini cheddars and watch more YouTube, because that seems to be my comfort thing right now.